Okay, so when you think about like the digital world, it's easy to just picture apps on your phone, right? But it's actually, well, it's way more complicated than that. It's this whole universe of different marketplaces, each doing its own thing. And today we're going to take a deep dive into that really complex, constantly shifting landscape. Our mission here is basically to pull out the most important bits, the key insights from our sources, and give you a shortcut to understanding, the different strategies and just the sheer scale of these digital stores. We'll look at how software actually gets to users, everyone from, well, us to huge global companies. We're going to examine Microsoft's approach, which is pretty unique with its multiple marketplaces, and then compare that to the big ones, the giants, Google Play and the Apple App Store. So let's kick things off with Microsoft. They've made this strategic decision to run 3 separate storefronts, not just one, which, might seem a bit complicated at first glance. Why do that? What's the thinking behind this multi-marketplace thing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what's really interesting is how this segmentation lets Microsoft target really specific groups very effectively.
Yeah.
You've got consumers, you've got businesses, you've got IT pros.
Yeah.
They all need different things.
They're all different needs, yeah.
Someone looking for the latest game, their requirements are worlds apart from an IT department deploying like cloud infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sure, it can create challenges. Maybe discoverability is harder or developers wonder, okay, where do I put my app?
Mm-hmm.
But the benefit is that tailored experience for each audience. That seems to be the key driver for them.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And you really see that segmentation when you look at the first one, the Microsoft Store. A lot of us probably still think of it as the Windows Store, basically. Its focus is mainly UWP apps, that's Universal Windows Platform, and also traditional Win32 desktop apps. The classic programs we've used for years on PCs. And of course, games, big focus on games for Windows and Xbox.
Yeah.
Now, Microsoft isn't shouting about exact app counts like the mobile stores do, but we saw data from back in 2021 suggesting around, 669,000 apps?
Around that, yeah. They don't emphasize the raw number quite as much.
And it seems they're really trying to attract developers now, even making it free to submit apps, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a push there.
And the user base is pretty big, over 250 million monthly active users. So it feels like the goal here is less about sheer quantity and more about a curated quality feel for Windows and Xbox users. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's about quality. It's about integration into their ecosystem. That's a very different playbook compared to just having millions and millions of consumer apps.
Okay. So let's shift gears then to Microsoft AppSource. This one's different again, right? Very specialized. It's pitched as the hub for business productivity, really designed for business applications.
Exactly. Purely business.
Its main purpose seems to be hosting apps that, extend or enhance the main Microsoft business tools like Microsoft 365, Dynamics 365, Power BI.
Precisely. Things that plug into what businesses are already using.
And the numbers here are different too. As of May 2025, sources say over 7,000 apps from independent developers. And that number changes often, apparently.
Yeah, it's a growing space, but much more focused than the main store.
And these apps, they cover all sorts of business needs, right? Productivity, project management, HR, IT functions, communication. It's a wide range within that business focus.
A very wide range, yes. Anything to help businesses run smoother using Microsoft's platforms.
Then there's the third one, the Azure Marketplace, Microsoft's cloud solutions hub. This one's aimed squarely at IT professionals and developers.
The tech crowd.
The whole idea is for them to find, buy, and deploy cloud stuff solutions and services built on or for Azure. And we should be clear, this isn't about apps like you get on your phone. Not at all.
No, definitely not consumer apps. Think infrastructure, services, developer tools.
Right. The catalog is huge and growing constantly. Thousands of solutions. Things like virtual machine images, security tools, networking stuff, SaaS applications, software as a service databases, even like consulting services.
It's vast.
Yeah.
And you mentioned new offers appearing all the time.
Yeah. Often hundreds every month.
Yeah.
So the focus is very much on enterprise-level cloud-native solutions.
And if you step back and look at AppSource, with its 7,000 plus apps and Azure Marketplace, with its thousands of, solutions, not just apps, it really paints a picture of Microsoft's big push into enterprise and cloud computing.
Yeah, it does.
The scale is just fundamentally different from the consumer app stores. It signals a market that's maybe smaller in raw numbers, but much higher in terms of the value per solution, potentially. It's specialized.
Right. It's not about getting billions of downloads. It's about providing these critical tools for businesses and tech teams.
Exactly. High value, mission critical stuff.
Okay, so that brings us nicely to the other side of the coin, the consumer app giants. Google Play Store, Apple App Store, the scale there is just mind-boggling.
Completely different world.
Let's start with the Google Play Store. Trying to get an exact app count for May 2025 is, well, tricky. Some reports say over 3.9 million apps this year. Others are closer to 3.3 million, maybe 2.87, some even around 2 million.
It's always been a bit fuzzy, hasn't it? That number fluctuates like crazy.
It really does. And maybe the exact number isn't the point as much as the sheer dynamism. Like over 3,000 new apps added daily, while others get removed.
Right. It speaks volumes about the pace and the somewhat decentralized nature of Android app development. It's just constant churn.
Constant churn, yeah. Then you've got the Apple App Store. Generally, sources put it around 1.9 million to 2 million apps as of May 2025. Specific numbers often land between 1.91 and 1.94 million. Apple themselves just say nearly 2 million.
A bit more contained, generally speaking, than Google Play's numbers.
Yeah, and interestingly, it seems to be slightly down from a peak a couple of years ago, like maybe 2.29 million in 2023.
And that's often linked to Apple's review process, right?
That's what people say, yeah. Their famously rigorous app review.
Which likely weeds out more apps before they even get listed, or removes more later.
Exactly. But like Google Play, the number isn't static. New apps appear daily, others get pulled for breaking rules, performance problems, or just being old and outdated.
So this raises a really interesting point, doesn't it? Google Play often has significantly more apps reported than Apple. What does that actually mean for users trying to find good apps and for quality control?
That's the core tension, yeah.
Apple's tough review process, you could argue, leads to a more curated feel. Maybe safer on average.
Potentially, yeah. Fewer surprises, maybe.
Whereas Google's more open approach gives you incredible choice, just vast amounts of options.
Yeah.
But that openness can bring challenges in consistently managing quality across the board.
Right. Finding the gems can be harder, perhaps.
Could be. It's a definite trade-off. Different philosophies impacting developers and users in different ways.
So just to kind of wrap our heads around the comparison, Microsoft Store, hundreds of thousands of apps focused on Windows, Xbox. AppSource, 7,000 very specific business apps. Azure Marketplace, thousands of enterprise cloud solutions. And then, boom, Google Play and Apple App Store with millions of consumer-focused apps. The difference in scale and focus is just huge.
It's massive. And that difference directly shapes things like how developers make money, what incentives they have.
How so?
Well, in the consumer stores, success often means high volume. Maybe lower prices, relying on ads or in-app purchases to generate revenue across millions of users.
Yeah.
But in those specialized Microsoft marketplaces like AppSource or Azure, even though there are fewer solutions overall, each one might be critical for a business. Its value can be way, way higher. So the monetization model is different, often direct licensing, subscriptions, perhaps higher price points, because the value delivered is substantial and measurable for the business.
So a smaller niche doesn't necessarily mean less profitable at all.
Absolutely not. It's just a different kind of market, potentially much higher value per transaction, even if the total number of transactions is lower than in the mass consumer market.
That's a really important distinction. These aren't just different stores, they're almost different economic models operating in parallel.
Precisely.
So, looking forward, we see all these trends like AI getting integrated everywhere, low-code, monocode platforms making development easier, maybe blockchain applications. Do you think these things might start to blur the lines between these different kinds of marketplaces? Could we see some sort of convergence?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Or maybe the opposite happens. Maybe we get even more specialized marketplaces popping up for even tinier niches.
It's fascinating to think about. You can see arguments for both. AI might become a layer across all types of apps, blurring lines. Low code could democratize business app creation, maybe flooding AppSource or similar platforms. But specialization often brings value too. So maybe we'll see hyper-focused marketplaces for specific industries or technologies emerge alongside the giants. It's hard to predict.
Yeah, definitely one to watch. Well, this has been quite the journey through these different digital worlds. It really highlights how diverse things are under the hood, from casual games to, the backbone of enterprise IT. It's way more segmented than just thinking apps.
It really is. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. We've talked a lot about how these app numbers are dynamic, constantly fluctuating, thousands added, thousands removed daily across all these platforms. Constant change.
What does that constant churn really tell us about the digital application economy itself? About how fast it evolves, how ephemeral some of it might be.
Interesting point.
And what are the implications of that? Thinking long term, how does this affect preserving older software, especially software that might have been critical for a business at one point or just part of our digital history? Does it just disappear?